We need Michael. I think it's Michael Vincent. That's it. Let's see if you take care of this here. Okay, welcome back to the continuation of the TSVWG Multi-Ring Circus, better known as the second session of the TSVWG Working Group meeting here in Prague. Your chairs are Gori Fairhurst, Wes Eddy, and myself, David Black. Gori and I are up here. Wes is still back in the U.S. somewhere. This is the note well. Note it well. It applies to you. And this is the last chair slide for today, unlike how we started the week. So this is item 4, agenda review, after which we're going to bring up, let's see, at least Georg is here from 3GPP to talk about a little bit about 5G and how it relates to transport. We then have a couple of SCTP drafts, a couple of FEC update drafts, and Michael Tuxson has an individual draft about something that needs to be fixed in the UDP and CAP of SCTP, as he'll explain later. Anything else? Any requests to bash the agenda? Ooh. No, that wasn't. That the chairs will not interpret that as an agenda bashing request. Okay.
So we can't promise this will be as exciting as Quick was if you were there. However, we still need a scribe to dribble text into the Etherpad. Could anyone volunteer to put some text in? I can keep an eye and correct.
Yeah,
okay,
but you're also speaking. You're about half our agenda, so. Roland, any possibility of doing it? Just a little bit of text. We don't need the blow by blow. We just need we just need a reminder of what we did.
Yeah, and I'll happily keep an eye on it. But it worked so well last meeting with just somebody dribbling text in, and we can fix it, and then we have a meeting note.
And Dave, could you also dribble some text in? Okay,
oh, perfect.
So that's Roland Bless and Dave Dolson. Thank you very much to both of you. Unlike Miri, I don't have little stickers though.
And I'll watch Jabba. That's fine if we have note takers watching Etherpad.
Great. Okay. So there was a very interesting lunchtime session on Tuesday about 5G, 3GPP, and the IETF, and Georg Meyer has been kind enough to come join us to tell us a little bit about so what implications are for transport and how we can work together.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. I have no slides. Sorry for that. We were just like talking today practically whether I should say something. My message, I hope, is very simple. I think the whole area here, the work you're doing is a very positive example for how 3GPP and IETF work together. The work on ECN, from my perspective, never was a reason for any controversials or anything like that, and went smoothly. And the input we gave, as well as the input you gave towards 3GPP, was always welcomed and worked in. So I have really at that point no clear view on how we will progress, like what additional topics and additional requests we will have from 3GPP. As I already said on Tuesday, we are still building up the requirements on the 5G system, also on the protocol level. We got the question during the Q&A whether somebody in 3GPP wants to remove ECN from the 5G system. I had a few talks with a few guys again now. I'm not aware of this. I also didn't get an indication that anybody else is immediately aware of that. I think if anybody of you has a concern or knows of any activities on that, as I said, I'm also not a RAN expert, so there might be activities or discussions in RAN that I'm not aware of. Please come to me. We can at least then identify much better whom to talk to. I think from the perspective I have, also from what I know from the CT groups, we should go on with the ECN work as it is at the moment. And I don't see any danger in that respect. But as said, for further work, we need to see if something comes up. I will produce a few slides and come to the next meeting or whenever it's time to present issues of interest, or we will have an expert here. Thank you.
Spencer?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming and talking to us. It's always appreciated.
Thank you. It's out of pure self-interest, so. But
The part where we're working on stuff that people are interested in is fascinating to us.
Let's see what comes in the end. So thank
I
you
wanna-
very much.
I want to echo Spencer's remarks. You're more than welcome here at any time in the future to talk about things that are relevant and move things along considerably faster than we can get them done by exchanging liaison statements.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks
a lot.
Okay. Next up, we have a couple of SCTP drafts. Let me go get some slides here. And let's see, where's the clicker? Here we go. We even have a slide clicker for you. I hooked it up this time.
How does it work?
The forward and back arrows go forward and back. Hang on. What happened there?
The first one is quick.
That's interesting.
No signal?
No signal. That's not right.
Need a slide black hole detection algorithm.
All right, hang on a minute. It was projecting a moment ago.
Second
Oh,
screen.
no. It got confused. There we go. We have an hourglass over there, and we should now have. All right. Now if I've done this right. Yeah, it sometimes forgets what it's supposed to be doing.
Okay, so the first document is a working document regarding an SCTP-specific way of doing network address translation. And I think we have as a deadline the end of the year. There have been no changes in the document. What is still being to do is the suggestion to split or to rearrange the content which is there into two parts, one for implementers of nets and one relevant to implementers of the endpoint, so that if you're only implementing one part, then you don't need to read the whole document. And the other one is, I think all the examples we are using there are using IPv4 addresses. You can do the same for IPv6 if you want, but it was a request to show also that you can do a translation from v6 to v4 and vice versa. So that will be adding an example or changing the examples. It will be interesting to fit the v6 addresses into 80 columns.
If that's your challenge, then good luck. If there's more challenges for the v6 thing, then I think you need to push back on the requirement to do v6. But let's try it.
Yes.
Well, let's try and fit it in and see what happens.
Yep. Oh, you need to change the, yeah.
All right,
So
let's go
next.
Get the next one.
So the next one is a bit more interesting. It is a document we have around for some time. It covers erratas in RFC 4960, which is the current base spec of SCTP. And we have added since the last IETF a couple of issues. So for the document structure is, for each issue, we have a separate section describing what has to change in RFC 4960. So it is basically old text, new text, and it has a textual description what the problem is and what the solution is. So the issues we resolved is first reduction of the initial RTO. So at the time we were writing RFC 4960, 3 seconds was the initial value. Now it's 1 second, and we just adopt that. From TCP, we are removing an ordering requirement of bundled second error chunks. So it's stated in the document that one chunk has to be before the other in case you receive a data chunk where you don't support that stream. And it doesn't matter which sequence it is, so we just remove that. There was a problem in the abstract API. A parameter was used there and not described, so we removed the parameter because it's not necessary. For WebRTC, they wanted the point is that they want to change over time the DSCP value, and you can do that in the socket API, but we are missing a statement that when consequences of this change is that you might end up in a different queue, you have to reset the congestion controller. So we added a statement regarding that. The ICMP handling, which is described in the document, was inconsistent for IPv4 and IPv6. So some IPv4 packets were handled, but some corresponding IPv6 packets weren't. We have removed that. We added text to cover the handling of soft errors. So you can now signal what's called in the host RFC soft errors to the application. We clarified the congestion window handling. So it's you can only grow the congestion window if it's fully used in when you want to grow the congestion window. And since you can't fragment data based on the congestion window, the statement is you can overbook by at least, but by at most a packet or a chunk, so that you can always fully use the congestion window. So if you have 2 bytes left and the next message is 10 bytes, then you can send 10 bytes. And the same applies to zero window probing, where your window is so small that the next chunk is larger than that, then you're allowed to send it to trigger this. So this has been addressed. We still have remaining issues. We want, the authors of the document talked about this during this week, how to resolve them. So there is a CRC32C example code, which uses short, long, and int, and we already had a problem where on some platforms long as 64-bit, or on some platforms long as whatever. And so we will go through explicit types where the type states how long this variable is. This covers this stuff. We still have one issue left from 4960. We have a hostname parameter where you can, in the init or init act, you can put in a hostname parameter. It's a fully qualified domain name. And we observed that during all the interrupt tests, this parameter the support of this parameter never has been successfully tested. So we will deprecate this parameter in the BIS document, saying that it should not be used anymore, and the supported address parameter will be used, that the hostname parameter must not be announced, and even when it's announced, it must be ignored. So this helps in case you have an implementation supporting this stuff, and kernel implementations don't support this parameter, and they always protected itself by not announcing this hostname parameter type and the supported address types. And the last thing is that there are 3 RFCs currently available updating RFC 4960, and that's RFC 6096, which is adding a chunk flags registry. So we will include that in the BIS document. the action by Anna has already been taken, but it's then documented in that thing. We will put a reference to RFC 6335, which updates the IANA registration procedures for the port numbers. And we will include RFC 7053, which adds a bit to the data chunk header, which is implemented by Linux and FreeBSD for a long time. So we then have a single document specifying the base protocol. And that is basically what we want to address during, let's say, the next weeks. Comments are still welcome. And the overall process for this document is that it's an informational RFC. We want to publish as an informational RFC, and it will be the basis of another document, the BIS document of RFC 4960. So we basically take RFC 4960 and then take the approved diff, apply it, and then run that through the IETF for publication. One of the points Gori wants to make.
Can you go back one slide just for a second?
Which one? That one?
2 slides, one slide. So these included RFCs, just to remind everyone, what's the standard status of these 3 documents?
The first and the last are proposed standard, I guess. I don't know about the middle one.
Okay, okay. So is there anything new in the list of features that have not previously been in the 4960? I mean, apart from those 3 things?
No.
Okay, just checking as we move forward.
It's only clarifications.
Okay.
So,
And
yes.
okay. And are those 3 RFCs being included by referencing them or by copying text?
The first one would be copy the text for the chunk flags registry. The last one will be by adding the text for the IBIT where we discuss the stuff, and the middle one will be a reference.
6335.
Okay.
Yeah. No, wait. Yeah. 6335 is the revised IANA procedures for transport protocols. It's BCP. Yeah, it's got the correct status, and it's a change to the IANA procedures across the whole transport. So that shouldn't be modified by this, but this must then refer to this normatively.
And presumably the 4960 BIS document, when that's all put together, will also refer to 6335 and not copy in text. Okay. Cool.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to copy text there. Okay, so, and then the last point is once this document, I mean, we will go standards track for that document, and then the point is that at one point of time, one might go for standard and not for proposed standard.
Was that a question?
That was a suggestion.
Okay, so if you think this document is ready to go to full standard,
The BIS document?
no, the BIS document.
Yes.
Then we have to check with our area director if he's happy with this. He will be helpful. The main criteria here is that we don't add new features.
Correct.
But we can change text, we can remove features, we can clarify, and the level to which we do that will be determined exactly by what this feature list is when we present it back to Spencer, I think.
Oh, there's the
You
idea.
keep going.
What?
Keep going.
Keep going. Well, I'm saying you don't have to do anything, Spencer, at this moment, because we give you this list and we ask you if this list will still be valid for progressing the SCTP standard to full standard.
And that sounds like a fine plan to me. And I was standing up to agree with you, but I wanted you to stop talking first.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
I think that's it.
good.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the whole process? Any comments on the idea that we might be taking the revised document to full standard? Anyone think that we're missing something in SCTP and want to throw anything at Michael or buy him a beer later? Michael doesn't drink beer, do you?
Exactly.
It would have been an easy offer. Right, thanks, Michael. You can take the seat. Effect frame.
So while I'm bringing up Vincent's slides, I'll give away one of the little secrets to how we managed to run this working group. Our AD was impressed the number of drafts we have. We assign shepherds early so that we know for each draft who the responsible working group chair is. And so for Vincent's 2 drafts, I'm going to be the shepherd. And for the UDP options draft that we've recently adopted, Gory's going to be the shepherd. So Vincent, I think I've got your slides. And let me see if I can get them full screen here.
Okay, thank you for being the shepherd. Yeah, I will be fast this time because I don't have so much to say about it. Well,
there's a clip. You can advance your own
Oh, yeah.
slides.
Thank you. Yes, it's working well. So the first few slides are about this effect frame extension document. Well, I'm skipping this one. I made a few improvements to the document. First of all, this is now a working group item document, and I changed a little bit the name of this document. Previously, there was this mention V2 that was suggesting that it could be a new version. This is no longer a new version for sure. Oh, I made something wrong. What's again? No. This is certainly not a new version. This is just an extension of the same protocol, and I wanted to reflect it in the new document name. Oh, that's the first point. Then we received a few comments, essentially from Marie-Josée Monpetit, about wordings, and essentially. So this is the reason why I get rid of this convolutional adjective and removed it and replaced it with a sliding window. So we are discussing an extension for sliding window cuts, and this term sliding window reflects very well the way it's working. So it makes sense, really. And then, and this is probably the main change in this document, I have added a new, I have added some text to introduce fake frame, the terminology, the concepts, the way it works. So there was already a section 3 in the previous version, but this section 3 was just 2 lines long, saying that, okay, there is no change to this section, so please go back to RFC 6363. And the introduction to this document was more about why do we want to extend this protocol. So there was no way to enter fake frame to understand what is the concept, what is the architecture so far. So I took advantage of this new version to add a brand new section 3 a brand new section 3 with some introductory material. So I hope that this time it will be clear that a newcomer to fake frame will be able to understand more easily what it is about, how it works, and some terminology. We will see that probably in the working group last call. So that's all for this first document. Next document is about sliding window RLC fake scheme. So having a new, having an extension to fake frame for those codes without any sliding window FE scheme wouldn't be meaningless. This is why we also propose this document. Once again, this is a working group document now. Once again, we received some meaningful feedbacks from Marie-Josée. For the same reason, I get rid of convolutional adjective, replace it with sliding window. There was some discussion at some point of time whether we should change the name of this fake scheme with something else. Well, finally, I decided to keep RLC, but now I make it clear that it is a sliding window RLC fake scheme. So I added this sliding window in this extension of the acronym. Well, that's a detail, but it can make sense. Then the main change, technical change for this document is probably this one. I don't know if it was, if I forgot to do that before. Well, I don't remember exactly how it came. But there was no way to have multiple repair symbols per packet previously. So just to clarify a little bit what I'm talking about, there is a a mechanism for moving from an application packet, let's say, to make it simple, to symbols that are managed by the FEC codec. Symbols traditionally are much smaller than the application packet, RTP packet, for instance. There are good reasons for that, essentially because application packets can be of variable size, so it makes sense to have smaller symbols. So a big packet will be mapped to a certain number of symbols. A small packet will be mapped to a single source symbol. Okay, so there are good reasons for having this mapping. And now if you do that, the consequence is that the repair symbol will also be the size of the source symbol. So if we have small source symbols, we have small size repair symbols. So and therefore, there is an incentive for being able to have multiple repair symbols per repair packet, because it will remove some overhead when transmitting repair packets. So instead of having multiple packets, you will have only one UDP IP header, only one header for the coding parts. So what you can see in this figure is the resulting packet that will be, in that case, composed of 3 repair symbols and a single header, and of course, on top of that, a single UDP IP header. There are a few consequences if we want to do that. Essentially, the fact that those 3 repair symbols will be produced by using exactly the same encoding window, using a repair key, which is a seed for the PNG that is easily deductible from the first version. So the first repair key value will be for the first repair symbol, and the next 2 repair symbols will have this value +1 and this value +2. So it's pretty easy. We can manage this in an implementation very easily. It's not a problem. So that's the main change. It's already in the document. And then there was also another change. There was a section that was so far empty called FEC code specification. This is now completed. And I also added the security considerations and the operational management considerations sections. So it's pretty close to the end. So just, well, what are the next steps for the 2 internet drafts? I would say that the fake frame extension document is almost done. I have to proof check the whole document, but I think that for next IETF it will be done. The sliding window ILC fake scheme document, well, has progressed very well. Of course, I need to proofread it. And I have 1 or maybe 2 technical questions. What I'm mentioning here in this slide is one of them. I have to discuss a little bit with colleagues. I have to do a few tests, but well, there is no big question behind. Well, the question is, should we take advantage of this document to add some, well, 1 or 2 more technical extensions or not? The extensions are not very complex. The one I'm mentioning here in this slide is about the possibility of having sparse versions of those equations. So instead of having all non-zero coefficients, being able to have some 0 coefficients. So there is a compromise. Okay, it can make sense. I don't want to go too much into details. We can discuss this offline. And the other one is about the finite field size. Should we add 1 or 2 additional values? So those are technical questions I'm planning to clarify for next IETF. Otherwise, well, both documents are close to the end, I would say. Questions? Comments?
Just a comment. I'm very pleased to see that Maria Jose has taken a good close look at this, and hoping that she'll be willing to take another good close look when at working group last call time.
Yeah. I also hope that in the network coding research group we will have a few more people looking at it more carefully, because it will make sense.
Just ask them.
I will. I already asked them.
And we'll be happy.
I will convince them if there's no volunteer, I would say.
Jake Holland, thank you for this work. I'm actually pretty excited to try it out. Is there an implementation?
Yes, there is an implementation of both fake frame extension on this RLC fake scheme.
Great.
This is not open source, but there is an implementation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm done.
Come and tell us more next time.
Yeah.
Unless anybody's got any comments? Apart from Jake? Bud.
Thank you. All right. Michael, last one.
Okay, oops. That document is about encapsulating UDP over SCDP over UDP. And there is an RFC about that. And this document provides some considerations. So what is the scope of this document? So the scope is to clarify a couple of things which refer to SCDP over UDP over IPv4 or SCDP over UDP over IPv6. So it's really encapsulating SCDP directly over UDP. It does not apply to SCDP over DTLS over UDP over IPv4 or IPv6, which is used by WebRTC. So this is not related to WebRTC. It's only for encapsulating SCDP over UDP to get through legacy nets. The document specifies the differences between RC 6951, which is the specification for SCDP over UDP, and an upcoming BIS document. And once this BIS document starts as an internet draft, this draft will just die. So what is the status? What is not described in the RFC is how you handle it describes the handling of embedded addresses in init and init adjuncts and how you verify these packets. So some of the packets you can't verify, like the init packet. So if you get a packet and you do updates of the port number, you can't verify the verification tag, and that's not clearly specified in the base RFC. It tells you that you have to do this before doing, but it doesn't make explicit that you don't do it if you can't do it. And what has recently been added is a consideration for keeping net state alive. So this means that you reduce the heartbeat rate. So SCDP will send periodically heartbeats, and the default is 30 seconds, which might be not short enough to keep net states alive for UDP traffic. So the suggestion is to reduce this to 15 seconds when you run this.
So what you mean is reduce the heartbeat interval, thereby increasing the rate.
Yes, you increase the rate. Yep. And again, this document is then the base of the base document. If there are any comments on this, I would happy to get them. Except for that, the document seems to be stable. So starting a BIS document seems to make sense.
I confirm that this is the approach, and we will not adopt this document, but we do consider the adoption of the document that will follow.
Yes, that's the plan. So this document is kept alive as an individual document, and it will die.
And for those of you who haven't read it, the document it replaces about 5 pages of content in the. So this is a very small document. It's not worth publishing a separate bit to go with it. We're just going to replace the whole document.
Yeah, that was actually suggested by an AD not to have an RFC and a small delta, but just revise the document to have this stuff in a single document. A question?
Yeah, Jake Holland. I just had a question. Was the change on the timing to keep net state alive based on measurements? I'm sorry if this was addressed in the doc. I haven't read it yet. Sorry.
No, it's not based on measurements. It's just I looked up what other protocols do for keep alive packets, and it's about 15 seconds what they use. And the RFC for I mean, right now the RFC says for heartbeats is 30 seconds. And the application can change it anyway. So an application can control this and can do this, but it might make sense to just let the STP stack take care of this in case of UDP and caps is used.
Great. Thank you.
You probably should refer to the UDP usage guidelines, which have, I think, the same number in.
Okay, I will do that.
That would be excellent.
That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? Our master plan is to try and release you early from the meeting. Is there more we have to discuss? I've got my list here.
I don't think so. I think we've got a few reminders and requests, though, for people to think about as they walk out.
Okay, so since we're releasing you early, maybe we can offer a little bit of homework or interesting reading to before the next IETF to have some discussion on TSV-WG list. Number one, we're looking for data on the LE-PHB candidates on how different diff-serve code points might work in real networks. If you're interested in this, please do measurements or please talk about it on the list to help roll and progress that draft. L4S architecture. We'd love people to read this and comment on it. L4S is important probably as we move forward. L4S architecture document is the thing to get right. ECN and CAPS and SHIM have been talked about a lot around the IETF this time. And we said we're doing a working group last call soon. Please read these. And finally, the RFC 4960 errata we just talked about. If you use SCTP, if you're interested in SCTP, if you think you may use SCTP, please read the list of errata because we intend to change the standard a little.
Okay. And with that, I think we're done.
See you in wherever. Where are we going next?
Singapore.
Oh, that might be fun. Join remotely if you're not coming, but please contribute.
Halfway around the world. Thank you.
I have to go sometime, yeah.
Yeah, he thinks he's in charge of that. Yeah.
You did brilliant.
Fine.
Those parts at the end, there were no slides or anything. I would use
Good enough.
It just makes it possible.
Have you seen Fish Called Wanda?
Yeah.
That was like, what was the middle thing?
That's the audio recording. Just keep the thing running. Thank you.